I told my friends my husband would come running if I sounded scared enough. The thing is, I thought that proved love. 2 calls, 1 fake emergency, and of course I smiled when he walked through the door. Then I saw his work badge still clipped to his shirt. By nightfall, his dream job was gone, and everyone knew I had made him lose it. My name is Cassidy Monroe. I was 33, and I worked as a client experience manager for a boutique wellness brand. The thing is, I got paid to make people feel chosen, calm, and important before they even knew what they needed. 2 diffusers. 1 warm towel. Of course I thought I understood emotional pressure. That Thursday afternoon, the office smelled like eucalyptus oil and expensive soap. I was checking the welcome sequence for a private retreat client, moving the tea tray closer to the treatment room because small details made wealthy women feel cared for without needing to ask. Adrian texted while I was editing the client flow. He said Friday's meeting had been moved to 4, and that it was the one Derek had been warning him about all month. He said Gerald Marsh was flying in from Atlanta, and if the contract closed, the promotion conversation would finally stop being a promise. My husband rarely sounded excited in texts. He sounded careful. Even his good news came with structure. Years before, that steadiness made me proud. When I started at the wellness brand, Adrian stayed up with me the night before my first major client pitch. He made coffee at midnight, read through my deck, and told me where I was underselling myself. I got the account. He sent flowers to the office and never told anyone he had helped. That should have stayed beautiful. Of course I had started reading it differently. At home, his work had become the loudest thing in the house, even when he did not talk about it. Early calls, late spreadsheets, dinner reheated twice. He did not ignore me exactly. He just kept asking me to understand why this season mattered. Belle stopped by the office near closing with sunglasses on her head and a paper bag of pastries she had not bought for anyone but herself. She asked why I looked annoyed before my husband's big career day. I told her Adrian had reminded me 3 times that he would be unreachable Friday afternoon unless something was serious. Belle laughed and said that sounded like a man asking permission to matter more than his wife. I said he would still come if I needed him. She looked at me then. Not kindly, interested. She asked if I was brave enough to prove it. Belle's apartment balcony was too narrow for 4 women, but she liked making people stand close when the conversation turned sharp. The railing overlooked a parking lot, and the air smelled like rain on hot concrete. Belle had rosé in plastic wine glasses because she said real glass made casual cruelty feel planned. The thing is, she did not call it cruelty. She called it honesty. Tessa sat on the floor cushion by the balcony door, knees pulled up, laughing at whatever Belle made sound safe. Sloane leaned against the wall with her phone in one hand, always ready to catch a moment before anyone had agreed it was one. I stood near the railing, turning my glass slowly, pretending I had not come there to complain about my husband. Belle brought up Adrian first. Of course she did. She asked if my corporate saint had reminded me again that he could not be disturbed during his holy meeting. I told her she was making it sound worse than it was. She said men like Adrian always made women feel guilty for needing them at the wrong hour. Tessa said Adrian seemed devoted. Belle said devoted was a nice word for trained. I told her not to be ugly. Then I smiled. That smile was enough for Belle. She leaned forward and said every husband had a leash, but some wives were too polite to use it. Sloane laughed and said that if Adrian left a career-making meeting because I sounded scared, it would be either romantic or pathetic depending on the camera angle. Tessa asked what would happen if he actually came home. Belle said, then I won. Won what? Exactly? Nobody said. That was how these conversations worked. The prize stayed unnamed so no one had to admit how cheap it was. I said Adrian would come because he loved me. Belle said she believed he loved me, but love and obedience looked similar when a man had been trained well enough. She called him my obedient puppy. She said it with the light voice people use when they know a phrase will bruise but want the bruise to look accidental. I told her I hated that. Then I repeated it once. My obedient puppy. The words tasted wrong and exciting at the same time. 2 glasses, 1 balcony. No clean reason to keep laughing. Tessa's face shifted first. She said Adrian had a real meeting and that maybe we should not make it a whole thing. Belle waved her off and said nobody was making anything. She said if Adrian loved me as much as I claimed, then there was nothing to fear. Sloane asked if she should be there tomorrow in case the theory needed documentation. Documentation. That was her word for recording people before they understood they were being turned into a story. I told them I was not actually doing it. Belle said of course I was not, because I was not that kind of wife. The challenge sat there between us. At home that night, Adrian had his laptop open at the kitchen table. The screen showed rows of numbers and a slide deck with blue charts. His leatherwork notebook lay beside his coffee mug. It was old, dark brown, and bent at the corners from years of meetings. I had bought it for him after his first promotion, back when I still thought his ambition carried both of us forward. He looked up when I came in and asked if I had eaten. I said I had snacks with Belle. He asked if I remembered Friday's meeting was at 4. He said he would be unreachable unless something was truly wrong. Not because he did not care, he added, but because the client had flown in and Derek had put him on point. What he meant was that he trusted me to understand the weight of it. What I heard was that I had been scheduled around his career. I told him of course I knew. I said I was not a child who needed instructions. He looked tired then, not angry. He said he was not giving instructions. He was asking me to protect that hour if I could. Protect that hour. I remember those words because I put my purse on the counter, saw Belle's message appear on my phone, and turned the screen down before Adrian could see it. Belle had sent a photo of a pink leash from some pet store website. Under it, she wrote that tomorrow would be iconic if I had nerve. I did not tell Adrian my friends were coming over Friday afternoon. I did not tell him Belle had already decided the shape of the game. I did not tell him Sloane had offered to record anything that happened. The first active lie was not the call. It was dinner, with Adrian sitting across from me, telling me the most important hour of his year, while my phone stayed face down beside my plate. The next morning he left early. He kissed the top of my head before leaving because I had not fully woken up. He smelled like soap and coffee. His leather notebook was tucked under his arm. He said he loved me and that he would call after the meeting if it went well. I told him good luck. Belle arrived at 3:30 with rosé. Tessa came 10 minutes later with a guilty smile and a bag of crackers. Sloane arrived last, holding her phone like it was already part of her hand. By Friday afternoon, Belle was pouring drinks while I stared at Adrian's name on my screen. The living room looked too soft for what we were about to do. Afternoon light came through the white curtains, and the couch pillows were arranged the way I liked them, smooth corners, no sagging. The coffee table had a cheese board, 4 glasses, and a bottle of rosé sweating into a ring on the wood. The thing is, I had made the room casual on purpose. Casual rooms forgive ugly behaviour faster. Belle sat in the armchair with one leg crossed over the other. Tessa was on the floor by the couch picking at a cracker she had not eaten. Sloane stood near the bookshelf because the angle gave her a view of the hallway and the front door. I said we should stop talking about it. Belle asked why, since I had been so sure. I said Adrian was in the meeting now. Belle said that was the point. 2 calls, 1 room, no honest way to call it harmless. At 4:07 I called him. It rang until voicemail. My face warmed because Belle watched the screen like she was watching a race. She said a real emergency would call again. Tessa said maybe that was enough. Sloane said no because enough did not prove anything. So I called again. This time I added a text before the voicemail finished. I wrote that something was wrong and asked him to pick up. My thumb hovered over send for 1 second. Then Belle leaned forward, smiling with her whole face, and I sent it. Adrian called back from the hallway outside the conference room. I could hear the office sound behind him, low voices and a door closing. He asked what happened. He asked if I was hurt. He asked if I was safe. His voice changed after the 3rd question. It went from controlled to focused, the way it did when he believed a problem had entered the house and he needed to find its shape. I made my voice thin. That was the part I did myself. I told him I was not great. I said I could not explain on the phone. I said I needed him home. Belle pressed her lips together to keep from laughing. Sloane raised her phone, not to record my side of the call, just to mark the moment before the catch. Adrian asked if I understood what he was in the middle of. That should have stopped me. I said I knew and that I was sorry, but I needed him. I made the last words smaller. Scared. Useful. There was silence on his end for a few seconds. Then he said he was coming. Belle put both hands over her mouth and kicked one foot against the rug like a girl at a sleepover. After I hung up, the room got louder. Belle said I had won already. Sloane said she hoped he looked dramatic when he came in. Tessa told Sloane not to be mean, but she did not leave. Nobody left. That matters. Nobody left the room where my husband's trust was on its way to be measured. Adrian was crossing a glass-walled conference room at that point. I knew the room because he had described it that morning. 2 walls of glass, Derek on his right, Gerald Marsh across from him, Patrick somewhere outside near the analysts' desks. Adrian would have picked up his notebook, his phone, his jacket. He would have apologized in that steady way he had, not asking permission, just explaining that something had happened at home. I did not see any of that. I saw Belle refill her glass and heard Sloane test her camera. 26 minutes later, tires touched the driveway too hard. The front door opened before anyone could decide where to stand. Adrian came in wearing his work clothes, jacket crooked, badge still clipped to his shirt. His leather notebook was under one arm, and his eyes moved across the room like he was searching for blood, smoke, broken glass, anything that matched the voice I had given him. He said my name, not loudly. Cassidy. I was on the couch. Belle was in the armchair. Tessa sat frozen near the coffee table. Sloane's phone was lifted near her chest. I smiled. I hate that the smile came before thought. I told them I had said I could make my husband do anything. Belle made a sound that was half laugh and half victory. She said he actually came. Sloane's phone tilted slightly toward Adrian's face. Tessa lowered her glass without drinking. Adrian looked at me, then at the table, then at Sloane's phone. He asked what this was. I said it was just a bet. I said we were talking about husbands and who would show up. I said it actually proved something good when he thought about it. He did not look at Belle. He did not look at Sloane. He kept looking at me. He said he might lose his job. The room changed immediately. Not loudly. The music still played from the little speaker. The rosy bottle still sat on the table. Someone's cracker broke under Tessa's fingers. Belle stopped smiling for half a second, then tried to bring the smile back and failed. I said he was being dramatic. That was Belle's word before it was mine, but I used it like it belonged to me. He said he had walked out of the most important meeting he had led in 2 years because I told him something was wrong. He said Gerald Marsh had flown in from Atlanta. He said Derek had trusted him to close the contract. He said he had left because my voice sounded scared. The badge clipped to his shirt was crooked. One edge had flipped outward, and the plastic caught the light when he breathed. For 1 second, I saw the whole room the way he must have seen it. Cheeseboard, wine, 4 women. A phone recording the moment he arrived ready to save me from a disaster I had invented. He had not come because he was trained. He came because I had known exactly which part of him would answer. The thought opened like a door. Then Belle said he was making it sound darker than it was. I grabbed that sentence like a rope. I told Adrian that nobody meant harm. I told him the fact that he came showed he loved me. I said if anything, it was sweet. He looked at Sloane's phone again. She lowered it too late. Adrian did not yell. He turned and walked out. That was the first time his silence did not feel like retreat. It felt like he was taking something with him. Adrian drove back to the office, and I stayed in the living room with the evidence of my own joke still on the coffee table. The music had stopped because Sloane had touched the speaker by accident while lowering her phone. The silence after that was not clean. It had crumbs in it. Rosé rings. Cheese left sweating on the board. The thing is, I still thought the damage could be folded small enough to fit inside an apology. Belle said Adrian needed to cool off. Tessa said she should go. Sloane said nothing while she looked at her phone, then locked it and slid it into her bag. I asked if she had recorded everything. She said only the part where he came in. Only. Of course. After they left, I rinsed the wine glasses. I do not know why. The sink smelled like soap and old lemon. 4 glasses upside down in the drying rack looked almost responsible, and that bothered me later because I think I was already trying to make the room innocent. Adrian came home after dark. He opened the door quietly. His leather notebook was not under his arm anymore. His badge was gone too. He stood in the kitchen entrance and looked at the clean counter, the drying glasses, the cheese board wrapped in plastic inside the fridge. I started talking first. I said the conversation had gotten away from me. I said Belle pushed it. I said Sloane recording was not my idea. I said I had thought he would be annoyed and go back to work. I said stupid more than once because stupid sounded safer than cruel. He listened. That was worse than if he had interrupted. Then he said he had lost his job. I sat down at the kitchen table. Not because I wanted to. The chair was simply behind me, and my body used it before I could make a better picture. He said Derek had told him Gerald left 15 minutes after Adrian walked out. He said the client chose Franklin Group. He said Derek let him go that evening because the firm needed someone reliable in front of clients. Reliable. That word should have belonged to Adrian. I told him we would figure it out. I said he was good at what he did. I said jobs came back from worse things than one bad afternoon. He held up one hand. Not harsh. Just enough. He said I had manufactured fear in my voice because I knew he would believe it. He said I used 5 years of trust as a tool in front of people who wanted to be entertained. He said Belle did not make my voice sound scared. Sloane did not make me send the text. Tessa did not make me call twice. He named the accumulation, not just the incident. That is how I knew he had been alone with it before coming home. I said I only wanted to prove he loved me. He said I wanted to prove it to Belle. The sentence left no air for my version. I said he was making me sound like a monster. He said he was making me sound like the person who called him during a career-making meeting and lied. No raised voice, no thrown glass. Just the fact placed on the table. The weekend became still. Adrian slept in the second bedroom. The door did not slam. He took 1 pillow, 1 blanket, and the phone charger from his side of our bed. He answered me in short sentences. Yes. No. Not now. He ate some of the food I left near the door, which somehow hurt more than if he had refused it. Patrick messaged him Saturday afternoon. I saw the name because Adrian's phone was on the counter while he made coffee. Patrick said people at the office knew Adrian had gotten a bad deal. He said Derek was already rewriting the story. He said he was sorry. Adrian read it and put the phone face down. That motion, from him, made my skin tighten. Tessa sent me one message Sunday morning. She said she had been thinking about Friday and that she should have stopped it. She said she was sorry, and then she did not respond when I wrote back that we all got carried away. Sloane told me the video was deleted. I asked, deleted from where? She did not answer for 6 hours. Then she wrote that I should focus on Adrian. Belle was the slowest surprise. She sent 2 messages at first, both light. She said men sometimes needed a hard reset. She said Adrian losing the job was awful, obviously, but Derek sounded like the real villain. By Sunday night, her replies shortened. By Monday morning, she had stopped using exclamation points. Adrian went to the office Monday to collect his things. He came home with a cardboard box. Not large. That made it worse. 6 years could fit on a kitchen counter if you stacked the notebooks sideways. Inside were framed photos, a few pens, a mug from a company retreat, and the leather work notebook I had given him after his first promotion. The corner was bent. His initials were pressed into the cover in fading gold. I looked at the box and had no sentence ready. My legs chose the floor. I sat on the kitchen tile with my back against the cabinet and put my hands over my face. I did not cry loudly. There was no use in volume. The box had done what Adrian's words had not fully done. It had carried his career into our kitchen and placed it where the wine glasses had been. Adrian stood in the doorway. He did not come to me right away. He did not leave either. That space between us became the house. Monday night, the leather work notebook sat on the kitchen counter beside Adrian's office box. He had not moved it to the closet yet. I told myself that meant he wanted me to keep seeing it. I told myself that was a kind of punishment. The thing is, I was still trying to find places where I could be the injured one. Dinner was pasta because I knew he liked it. I cooked too much and salted it twice. Adrian ate a few bites, then set his fork down with care. That carefulness had become louder than any fight. I told him again that I was sorry. He asked what I was sorry for. The question was final and clean, not cruel. I said I was sorry the joke got out of hand. I said I was sorry he lost the meeting. I said I was sorry Belle and Sloane turned it into something bigger. I said I was sorry he was hurt. He looked at the leather notebook. Then he said I was still putting the weight anywhere except where I had picked up the phone. That made my face hot. I told him that his career had become the only urgent thing in our house. That was true. I said I had spent months listening to meeting times, client names, Derek's expectations, promotion deadlines, projections, contracts, and travel schedules. I said I had started feeling like a soft object he walked around on his way to becoming important. He did not deny it. He said he had been absent in ways he had called necessary. He said he should have seen that before it became a wound. The apology landed. For one breath, I could have met him there. Instead, I added that none of that would have happened if he had made me feel like I mattered more than a client from Atlanta. His face closed. He said being right about feeling lonely did not give me the right to make his love perform tricks for Belle. I said he was using that word because it made me sound cheap. He said the word was accurate. Performance. I hated him then for sounding calm. Calm made the facts stand straighter. I reached for Belle because old habits do not ask permission. I texted her from under the table asking what I was supposed to say because Adrian was making it sound evil. Belle did not answer until much later. She wrote that maybe we needed space. One sentence, no joke, no defense, no balcony voice turning shame into style. That was her exit. Small enough to miss if it had belonged to anyone else. I put the phone down too hard. Adrian looked at it but did not ask. He said if I wanted to fight for the marriage, Belle, Sloane, and Tessa could not remain in our life. Not as punishment, not as control. As a boundary he could live inside. What he meant was that the room that made his humiliation possible could not keep a key to our house. What I heard was that he wanted to take the last people who still made me feel less alone. I told him he was making me choose so he could win twice. I said he had already become the victim everyone wanted to protect. I said now he wanted my friends gone so the story could end with me begging in an empty room. He reached for the leather notebook and closed it. That was the silent decision marker. Not the words, not the boundary. The sound of that notebook closing. He had been touching the open pages while we talked, one hand on the lines where he used to write numbers that built his future. When he closed it, he stopped negotiating with me in the only way he had left. He said he would handle things properly now. No legal words, no threat, just a sentence with furniture already being moved inside it. The next morning, I woke to the sound of his car door. From the bedroom window, I saw him carrying the office box to the trunk. He placed it in carefully, like it still deserved respect. The leather notebook went on top. I went downstairs in bare feet and asked where he was going. He said he needed quiet. I told him this was his home. He said he knew. That answer had no comfort in it. Tessa called later. I almost did not pick up, but I wanted someone to sound like before. She cried before I could speak. She said she had messaged Adrian because she could not stop thinking about his face when he walked into the living room. She said she was sorry to him. To him. I asked if she was serious. She said she was sorry to me too, but not in the same way. That sentence put her on the other side of something. Sloane sent one message that afternoon. She said she had removed the clip from her phone and cloud folder. Then she added that if anyone asked, she would tell the truth about who suggested recording. Anyone. The words stayed on my screen after the message dimmed. By evening, the house had become logistical. Adrian texted when he would stop by. He asked where I had placed his tax folder. He asked if I had seen his spare car key. He did not ask how I was. He did not accuse. He did not soften. I became louder in response. I sent long messages he answered with one line. I wrote apologies that still explained. I wrote that I loved him, that I was scared, that I had been stupid, that Belle had been poison, that I could cut them off if that was what he needed. He replied that he needed consistency, not panic. Consistency was a word I could not perform in one night. By Friday, Belle had not called. Tessa had gone quiet. Sloane was protecting herself in careful language. Adrian was somewhere I could not reach by sounding afraid. The emergency cord inside him had been pulled once too cheaply. Now it did not answer. The courthouse mediation office had grey carpet and a coffee machine that smelled burned before anyone pressed the button. I arrived 2 weeks after the prank expecting a separation conversation with rules, maybe anger, maybe a path back if I said the right version of sorry. The thing is, I still thought words could stage the room. Adrian was already there. Patrick sat beside him, hands folded around a paper cup. He did not look proud or angry. He looked like a man who had seen the professional part of the damage and chosen where to sit. Belle was not there. Tessa was not there. Sloane was not there. A clerk handed me a folder and asked me to confirm my name. I signed the receipt with a pen that skipped on the first letter. Then I opened the folder on my lap. The top page read, Petition for Dissolution of Marriage with Temporary Financial Orders. The first case management hearing was scheduled 3 weeks from that morning. I read the title once, then moved my thumb along the edge of the page until the paper bent. The filing referenced the fake emergency calls, the group chat, Sloane's recording, Adrian's termination letter, and Patrick's statement about the meeting. No new secret. No surprise witness from nowhere. Just the afternoon I had built, written in order by people who knew how to make facts stay still. I said it was one stupid mistake. The mediator asked whether I disputed making a false emergency call during his client meeting. I looked at Adrian. He looked at the folder, not at me. My mouth gave me nothing useful. Sloane texted before the meeting ended. She said she did not want to be involved and had already told Adrian's attorney about the recording. Belle blocked me after being asked to preserve the group chat. I moved into a short-term apartment above a nail salon, where the walls smelled faintly of acrylic and fried food from the place next door. The temporary order froze part of our joint savings until Adrian's lost income claim could be reviewed. Tessa apologized to Adrian, Belle disappeared, and Sloane protected herself first. My wellness clients still trusted me to design calm for strangers, but my own house had become a file with numbered pages. Adrian started consulting independently, and the leatherwork notebook was no longer on our kitchen counter. I thought making Adrian come running would prove I was loved loudly enough. Of course, what I proved was that I knew exactly where his trust lived and how to use it. I wanted witnesses for my power. The witnesses became the record. The leatherwork notebook left with Adrian in Patrick's hands. I called my husband my obedient puppy, and then I watched him stop coming when I called.